at the Markets with David Modell.
Hello friends, and welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. People ask me all the time if I'm bullish on cannabis stocks. Yes, I am. I'm going to show you some charts and give you some facts right now so you can make your own decisions. You're going to want to watch this whole video because I'm also going to tell you how you can download a report that's going to tell you how I'm investing in cannabis stocks right now. I'm also going to have an interview with a cannabis market expert, and he's going to give you some actionable ideas on how you can profit in cannabis stocks, both in the United States and Canada, and also worldwide. So please check out this whole video. You're not going to want to miss a minute of it. So support for legal marijuana use among Americans is now up to 65%. It was only 27% support for legal marijuana in America back in 1979. Now it's up to 65%, a clear majority. Amazing. If we look at the U.S. side of things, the U.S. marijuana market projections through 2025, billions of dollars, and it's just going to keep increasing on both the medical and recreational sides. And that's not just true in America, but also in Canada as well as in Europe. It's just worldwide. It's a huge phenomenon. Also, in terms of job growth, there's going to be, through 2020 at least, massive projected workforce gains in cannabis jobs, more than most other sectors, in fact. And revenues, tax revenues. Looking at 2018, the cannabis tax revenues in states where they have adult recreational use has been in the tens or even hundreds of millions, and it will only increase this year and going forward. So am I bullish on cannabis stocks? I am. And I promised you a free report if you go to wealthresearchgroup.com/legal 2019. Just type that into your type it into your browser. Also, I'm going to put that in a link, in a text link in the description below this video, so you can just go ahead and click on it. That's wealthresearchgroup.com/legal 2019, and that answers a lot of questions on how I am playing cannabis stocks right now. I also promised you an exclusive interview with a cannabis market expert. Check this out. He knows inside and out, because he's an insider in not only American but also Canadian and European and global cannabis industry facts and how you can profit on this with cannabis stocks. If you want to be profitable, if you believe in this industry, then watch this full presentation from the beginning to the end. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Hello, folks, and welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. I've got a special guest and a repeat guest, an expert in the cannabis industry. I get so many emails every day and messages asking about what's hot and what's not in the world of cannabis. And so we've got on the video screen here today Mr. Lucas Birdsall from ICC International Cannabis Corp, one of the premier players of not just the North American cannabis industry, but the global, and it is global, cannabis industry. So, Mr. Lucas Birdsall, welcome back to Looking at the Markets, sir.
Thanks for having me back, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, the last time you came on, you were just an absolute wealth of information, and I can't wait to ask you these questions that I have and that so many people have about the international cannabis scene. We just saw a major deal struck between Canopy Growth Corp, the largest cannabis company in the world, market cap-wise, buying a major U.S. hemp company in light of the Farm Bill, which legalized hemp. So on the board, the hemp company has major U.S. politicians signaling that legalization might be a matter of months, not years. Every health store now has hemp shampoo, hemp conditioners, hemp soaps, hemp oils, you name it. In fact, millennials are seriously ditching alcohol in favor of cannabis. So please tell me, how big is this industry becoming?
Yeah, it's going to be monstrous. And I believe last time I was on the program here, we discussed potential consolidation within the cannabis and the hemp industries. I think the recent Canopy transaction is a great demonstration of that. I think we're going to continue to see consolidation within the space, not only from cannabis dedicated companies, but potentially from food and beverage companies that are looking to make a move into functional beverages, that is a CBD primarily infused beverages, and or adult use cannabinoid infused beverages. But this space is big, not only from a medicinal or an adult use perspective, but from a cash crop perspective. Some of these farmers are able to achieve higher yields, better profit margins when actually farming hemp. So I think it's very exciting, and we're reverting back to the days before hemp was really villainized by the media, et cetera.
Yeah, villainized, demonized, and now it's becoming legalized very quickly. Altria Group, Molson Coors, Constellation Brands, Coca-Cola, these are blue chip companies with incredibly strong brands, yet they're diversifying into cannabis, like Altria, which owns Marlboro, invested in Cronos. So are we, in your opinion, going to see more and more of these types of acquisitions and mergers as the trend strengthens?
Absolutely. Everyone's looking for a piece of the pie. And regrettably, if you don't have the infrastructure in place to capitalize and to actually realize some of these phenomenal margins we're seeing in the cannabis and the hemp industries, the larger multinational, transnational corporations, their only choice is to get their foot in the door by way of mergers or acquisitions. I would forecast that this trend is going to continue over the next 24 months. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other household names make entrances into the cannabis space by way of merger and acquisition.
Yeah, and I'm totally looking forward to that as a cannabis investor. Now, let's talk about the cannabis market as a whole, though. With regards to the polls, the surveys, the numbers are overwhelming for cannabis support now. I just heard of a CNBC poll, 65% of American respondents support legalizing marijuana federally now. We're totally past the whole reefer madness hurdle, to say the least. The new cannabis consumer treats it more like a glass of wine. And yet there's so many different products, vapes, edibles, beverages. It's huge. And then on the medical side, you've got governments actually thinking about putting CBD, cannabidiol products on their subsidized medicinal product list. So what are the recent trends that you've been seeing in the CBD markets today?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing, as you alluded to earlier here, massive uptake in ancillary products, whether it's shampoos, hand creams, topicals, etc. I do truly believe that the petrochemical-based cosmetics industry is just ripe for disruption. The cosmetic space has primarily been derived from petrochemicals since inception. And with a resurgence in hemp, hemp oil, CBD, et cetera, I think you're going to see some exciting moves made by Revlon, et cetera, who own massive market share. And they're going to look to either purchase CBD inventory, CBD stockpiles by way of hemp, or they're going to look to purchase CBD topical manufacturers. So I think the cosmetic space is probably the most exciting vertical that is ready for disruption by way of hemp and CBD and hemp oil.
And it's not just in North America. This is happening all over the world, which is what makes your company, the company that you're with, International Cannabis Corp, so exciting. How early is the opportunity to become a cannabis dominator outside of the more developed and better advertised North American markets? Like what's happening in Europe, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, an analogy I like to use is a baseball one. I'm a big baseball fan. In North America, we like to say we're probably in, the bottom of the seventh when it comes to the cannabis industry. Mm-hmm. But when you go over to a jurisdiction such as Europe, I mean, they're really kind of the top of the first. Mm-hmm. Obviously the populace over there has been receptive to CBD treatments for over 10, 15 years. But the medical cannabis and the adult use cannabis space there is a true opportunity to realize alpha. So ICC International Cannabis Corp, we're looking to plant the flag in Europe. We now have 16 licenses in a variety of jurisdictions, and we're triggering, we've signaled the shift towards operations. So we're going to start to realize some material revenues come Q3 of this year. There's a couple supply agreements that have just been announced and put in place. That's really going to drive our margins and our cash flows. But yeah, we're on the top of the first. We're looking to dominate. and there's much more exciting things on the horizon.
Yeah, the way I see it, International Cannabis Corp is becoming, and is already, in fact, the global leader in the cannabis sector. You have licenses in multiple jurisdictions, multiple continents, and you're either the first or the only license or the dominant player in many regions. Lucas, could you explain to me, just in short, the company's strategy and priorities?
Absolutely. So we just brought on a brand new CEO. This is a very successful cannabis entrepreneur. He's made multiple exits from the Canadian cannabis industry. He's an operator. He's going to help us actually drive some of these licenses and facilities under construction into profitability. And he's also going to focus on assisting with supply chains. So ICC International Cannabis Corp, it's fully vertically integrated. We're looking to actually penetrate each link of the cannabis value chain, from cultivation to distribution to research and development. And it's very exciting. I mean, but this is really where we're shifting towards operations.
Yeah, and I heard there's some exciting news that actually came across my desk today, April 23rd. It came out that ICC is closing in on the acquisition of nearly 50%, 49.9% to be exact, of Wayland Group's international portfolio of cannabis brands. This is huge. We're talking about some very strong brand names here in the cannabis space. You're making some very strategic investments in a few companies that are doing some real high-tech stuff. So if you could tell me just some particulars, what is the market cap post-merger, and what's the best way to value the worth of your assets, licenses, and relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a landmark acquisition for ICC International Cannabis Corp. In fact, it would be considered a watershed acquisition. The crown jewel of this 49.9% acquisition of Wayland's international asset and license portfolio is the 820,000 square foot Dresden facility. Now that's 820,000 square feet of clean cultivation room. It has an EU GMP certification attached to it. It really is going to be the premier European medical cannabis cultivation facility. In conjunction with that, Wayland has just announced that it's been awarded one of 3 medical indoor cultivation licenses by the German authorities there. Their peers in receipt of those licenses are Afria and Aurora. So, I mean, there are some amazing assets, some amazing technologies, especially the VesiSorb technology, which Wayland owns worldwide licensing and distribution rights to. This is something that makes tinctures, oils, other types of CBD extracts water soluble, so that they have optimized mixing and liquids, etc. But that crown jewel is the Dresden facility. Wayland also has a footprint in Switzerland, Italy, etc. Again, we're building our license base. There are some amazing assets. I know for a fact that the Dresden facility has a replacement cost report done on it for 110 million euros. And to address your market cap question, we assume that this acquisition is going to add about 180 to 200 million dollars to our market cap.
That's astonishing. Almost as astonishing as one facility having over 800,000 square feet of cultivation facility. That's pretty mind-blowing. I can't even conceive that. So when will the company start to report revenues?
It's a great question. So in conjunction with this Wayland acquisition, we've also signed a 3-year supply agreement with Wayland Canada, and that's to receive 10,000 kilograms or 10 million grams of EU GMP certified cannabis flower per year, and that's for import into the European marketplace. So ICC and Wayland have an import distribution agreement with the German authorities, and we're actually going to look to capitalize on some pretty amazing spreads over there. Just for the sake of simplicity, a gram of premium EU GMP certified cannabis flower in Germany retails for about between 6 and 9 euros. And I can tell you that our production costs over here in Canada are much lower than that. So we're looking to start capitalizing on that supply and distribution agreement in Q3 of this year. It's for 3 years. 10,000 kg or 10 million grams a year, in aggregate 30 million grams over the 3-year term. So I'll let the viewers do the math there, but it's a very exciting opportunity, and it's going to drive material revenues and some very exciting margins.
By the way, if people want to learn more also about the company, they could just go to the company's website, intlcannabiscorp.com, and the ticker symbols on the CSE. In Canada, WRLD.U, and I'll get it right this time, in America on the OTC markets, WLDCF. All right. And then finally, I just wanted to ask about the competitive advantages of ICC. We discussed them already. I mean, you've got this enormous Dresden facility with over 800,000 square feet of cultivation space. You've got licenses in places where others don't or just can't. How much cash do you currently as a company have? And tell me more about your CEO, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So our treasury is very healthy. We just completed a $45 million raise. So the coffers are full. We're ready to deploy this into high priority jurisdictions such as Denmark, Germany, etc. And our new CEO, as I spoke on earlier, he's an amazing cannabis operator. It's a gentleman by the name of Mr. David Schmidt. He actually, in fact, aggregated many of the veteran patients up here in Canada, and he sold that off to a tier 1 licensed producer. He's a phenomenal wealth of knowledge in the cannabis space. He puts me to shame, and he's going to help ICC move towards operating, achieving material revenues, and really gaining that global dominant status within medical cannabis, CBD, and adult use.
And as I see it, International Cannabis Corp is already dominating and will continue to do so. So many deals going on, so many acquisitions and mergers. I could easily imagine ICC becoming a target of a huge capital infusion. No guarantees about what's on the horizon, but you never know. And we all know what happens to stock prices when that happens. So I'm super excited about this. I believe in being an early investor when it comes to these things, not just in the cannabis industry as a whole, but in International Cannabis Corp. Mr. Lucas Birdsall, thank you so much for joining me again. We're just going to have you back to find out how this all pans out, but I'm pretty confident. Thank you so much, Mr. Birdsall, for coming on to Looking at the Markets. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, David. Thanks again.